Ladies and gentlemen, the AOG Podcast.
It's the AOG Podcast. I'm AJ, your host. Thanks for tuning us in this evening. For those of you who might not be aware, we recently had Silicon Valley Bank, SVP Bank, a regional bank, recently fail. It was due to a combination of factors. You had mismanagement, bad loans. So we're all kind of wondering, is our money safe in the bank that we thought we trusted? The truth is, no bank is completely immune to failure. But that doesn't mean we should panic and just take all our money and withdraw it all. First off, the banks don't have all of that money on hand. Go ahead. Go try to withdraw all your money from the bank. They're not going to let you. But you can diversify your investments, diversify your assets, spread it out across multiple banks and financial institutions. This is going to help you minimize your exposure to any single bank's failure. But I can't help but wonder, what's the bigger picture? Is this bank collapse a sign of a broader trend? Are we trying to go towards digital currency and a cashless society? It's all certainly possible. You have crypto on the rise. Bitcoin is being, used regularly as a digital payment platform. PayPal and Venmo are just as good as cash. It suggests that the future of money is moving towards a more digital and decentralized landscape. So what are we going to expect in the coming years? Are traditional banks going to be able to adapt and survive in this new landscape? Are they going to be forced to make way for new tech-driven players? Listen, only time is going to tell. But one thing is certain. We're going to stay vigilant. We're going to stay informed. We're not going to listen to Jim Cramer. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But stay on top of everything. Make smart choices about where you're investing. And it's going to help you ensure that you have a safe and secure financial future for yourselves and your loved ones. But speaking of banks, so I have a business account at a very large bank. Talk about airing some grievances, right? The AOG Podcast, airing of grievances. I had someone on this bank account. I have been trying for a good year to get them off. This bank, I'm not going to name the bank. I don't want them to do to me what they did to Kanye and ban me. But this bank just figured it out recently. It took over a year to remove someone from a bank account. And that led me to another thought I had. Are most people just not capable of doing their jobs? Think about it. Every experience you have, everything you do every day in your life, people have jobs they're just unqualified for. And it then begs a bigger question of, how did they get there? How did they get into that position? They're not qualified to do that job. This bank dropped the ball. Luckily, it wasn't a bad actor. The person I can trust had access to these bank accounts that had money in them for this business. But they couldn't figure out how to remove them. It took 1 year. 1 year. We're going to get to all your news headlines and everything going on in this crazy world that we live in. We're going to be hearing from you. Make sure you drop some stuff in the chat here. We'll be back.
Wearing a mask or social distancing? Did you recently attend a Trump rally? Then you or someone close to you is probably laying down. Hi, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor and CEO of MyPillow. No one should underestimate the value of a good rest. And I should know. When I was addicted to crack, passed out on a deserted street during a bender in Mexico, I realized this curb's doing zero favors for my neck. Then after talking directly to God and not myself, MyPillow was born. Years later, after a settlement for deceptive ads and an F from the Better Business Bureau, I'm a multimillionaire. How? Because America! There's no problem that a pillow can't solve. Freebasing in an alley? You're gonna want my pillow. A woman wants to choose what she can do with her own body? That's gonna need a pillow. Wife left you in an ugly divorce? Use about 8 pillows. And if you vote Trump come November, you can get 2 of my pillows for the price of 2 of my pillows. Call my new number now.
Always good to hear from Mike Lindell over at My Pillow. Have I mentioned those things are horrible? So we're talking about the SVP banking collapse. I'd like to see what the viewers are thinking here. If you drop a comment on YouTube on the live stream. You have a month ago, you think of the people on TV, on the news, as trustworthy. I would think so. You've got Jim Cramer on CNBC. If you're listening to this guy, you should have known a long time ago you were being set up for failure. But you've got Jim Cramer advising people a month ago to buy stock and invest in SVP Bank. What am I missing? We're being led down a very bad path. And it begs a bigger question as to where are we getting our information from and who should we be listening to? Certainly not me. I'm just reading the headlines here, folks. You had this banking collapse. You've also got our government collapsing, I think, right before our very eyes. Unfortunately, you have Fetterman in Pennsylvania. I really feel bad for the guy. I do. I feel bad for him. His health is supposedly getting better. Could be released in as little as 2 weeks. So the Pennsylvania Democrat checked himself into Walter Reed on February 16th for treatment for clinical depression. And this is not a joke. This is not funny. This is not something to joke around about. He felt lightheaded at a Democratic Party retreat. With that, the wife takes the kids to Canada. She leaves the country. Husband's in the hospital. And I just don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. You've got someone in Congress, and I feel bad. You have someone in Congress that unfortunately can't really do their job and needs help. This is what's running the country. That's scary to me. That's scary to me. But in other news, you got PETA going after Jill Biden. I actually disagree with this. I actually agree with Jill Biden on this one. You had the People for Ethical Treatment of Animals calling on Thursday for they don't want her to use real chicken eggs at the White House Easter egg roll this year. So Ingrid Newkirk, the president of PETA, is urging in a letter to the White House to choose reusable plastic or wooden eggs. Or even painted rocks. So you've got, I'm just going to take a step back here. PETA doesn't want real eggs being used. I get it. I don't get it. But use wooden eggs instead. But I thought, now is that like, are the environmentalists going to get bent out of shape? Right? Trees, paper. I don't really know. But Newkirk cited that those who don't consume eggs for ethical, environmental, or health reasons as cause for the potential move. In addition, PETA's primary goal of protecting chicken rights. Speaking of animals, the French Bulldog is the most popular. It's the most popular breed of 2022. Ended the Labrador Retriever's 31-year term as the country's favorite dog breed, according to the American Kennel. Talking about being bumped 31 years. The Labrador Retriever to a French Bulldog. Some other people got bumped recently. You had the Oscars over the weekend. So this Nigerian singer and songwriter, Thames, I hope I'm saying that right. I don't want to offend anyone, but Thames had quite the interesting outfit. She stole the show, literally. At least for the guests behind her. She's been slammed on social media after her outfit blocked the view of all of the attendees behind her at Sunday night's Academy Awards. She was nominated for Best Original Song for the Black Panther. The track Lift Me Up. She wore a puffy white gown that wrapped around the back of her head. Is that crazy? I don't understand how you... I mean, you don't just pick this out. If you saw the photo, I don't know if we're allowed to show the photo. If you saw the photo, it's not something you say, oh yeah, I picked this out on my own. Like, you had a designer. Someone did this for you. Were they not thinking? Imagine waiting your whole life to be at the Oscars and you end up sitting behind a stratus cloud. This is what people are saying on Twitter. But seriously though, imagine waiting your whole life. And that's what you get stuck behind. You know, so a quick update with the Oscars. This was probably the safest opening monologue ever. You had Jimmy Kimmel. He joked about the Chris Rock and Will Smith slapping incident on stage. And he mentioned something about a crisis team that was put in place to avoid that from happening. Nothing will ever be as good, though, as Ricky Gervais at the 2020 Golden Globes. Talk about a not safe opening monologue. But some of the headlines we had from the Oscars, Everything Everywhere All at Once won Best Picture. Michelle Yeoh, I think I'm saying that right, won Best Actress. Rihanna's back. Where has she been? Right? She disappeared. We had her at the halftime show. She performed Lift Me Up. Jamie Lee Curtis. She's been all over, right? She won Best Supporting Actress. Seemed like it was a good night. Numbers are down. Numbers are going down every single year. They're not hitting the nail on the head. I think they're getting it wrong, and they're not really knowing their audience. And speaking of getting it wrong, imagine this, guys. Imagine this, folks. The city of Newark, New Jersey, admits that it got scammed. It became a sister city recently with a fake nation. It was about to become a sister city with a Hindu nation, and there was one problem. That nation didn't exist. They found out about this after they had an official ceremony for it. It was it was well-intentioned. But what a huge embarrassment. Talk about earlier, right? We were talking about people who can't do their jobs. Everyone has a phone. Everyone has a computer. Why couldn't they just do a quick Google search would have found that this was a fake Indian nation. This is fake. This goes back to earlier. Who's running the government? How are people getting put in these positions? I'd hate to be the people living in Newark, New Jersey. What a waste of taxpayer dollars. What a waste. I don't know when people are going to wake up. Speaking of waking up, Jen Psaki, former White House press secretary, she's all excited. She was great. She's all excited. She says, and I wish I was kidding when I say this. Quote, President Biden does nothing at 9 a.m. The fact that he's giving a speech about the bank failure at 9 a.m. speaks to how vital the White House recognizes it is. He's the president. Are you kidding? The president of the United States of America, the greatest country in the world, supposedly. Home of the free, land of the brave. I think I said that backwards. I don't really care. What matters is the president can't even get up at 9 a.m. The president is sleeping. Is it true that this is still the land of the free, home of the brave? Our president can't even get up at 9 a.m. He does nothing, she has to say? That's embarrassing. I hope he's working late nights. I would assume you're working 24/7. But people doing their jobs. You had the FAA pick. This guy can't even answer a basic question. He was asked a series of questions the other day, this gentleman. One of them was, tell me what airspace requires an ADSB transponder. Now, I'm not in the FAA. I would assume, you know what happens when you assume. I would assume he would know that. He couldn't answer any of the questions. Any of these basic questions to become in charge of the FAA. So why are we putting people in these positions? I just don't get it. I don't understand. You have this January 6th committee, and we showed you some great exclusive footage on this show last week. This January 6th footage that was recently released. The committee is now saying they never saw it. Well, of course they didn't see it. I made it up last week. All kidding aside, they never saw the footage. How do you run an investigation that's fair and not look at all the evidence? I'm missing something. I think we're all missing something here. It doesn't make any sense. You run an investigation, you're on a committee, and you don't look at all the evidence, you don't look at all the footage. I don't understand that. I don't get that. A few years ago, I was traveling. I was actually out in California first time. There's a woman in the news now, an elderly woman who was bleeding. She was attacked, begging for help. Begging for help. It's a sick video. No one stopped. Is this what we've become? We put people in charge they're not qualified. I mean, look, Trump put that Betsy, what's her face, in the Department of Education. She knew nothing about education. Nothing. What a terrible pick that was. But this is what we've become. Everything's imploding, I think, before our eyes. No matter who you are, what you are, where you are. And it's scary. Greta, speaking of imploding, Greta Thunberg, climate change activist. I call her the angriest kid in America. Any angriest kid in the world. She's not even from America. She had a tweet in 2018 saying that the world was going to end in 2023. So Greta Thunberg deletes this tweet saying that the world is going to end. Is global warming real? Maybe. I don't know. Are the ice caps melting? Maybe. I don't know. What I think we all need to do is just take a step back and really think, what are we being told? And this is on both sides of the aisle. Everyone's in it for themselves. Everyone. We were supposed to die a long time ago. Right, Al? Al Gore? But anyway, so Greta deletes this 2018 tweet saying that the world was going to end in 2023 because obviously we're still here. And there's, I guess, information out there that this isn't happening anytime soon. Speaking of walking back on words, Whoopi Goldberg had to apologize again for using an ethnic slur on The View. They got to kick her off. That show should just speak about imploding. That show is terrible. Terrible. You got Joy Behar. Oh my goodness. Retire, lady. Get off the show. You had 4 against 1 or 5 against 1 when you had Meghan McCain. I don't even know if Meghan McCain's still on the show or not. It's a terrible show. I'd rather sit and listen to Jim Cramer giving me bad financial advice for an hour than listen to Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg. And they get away with it. They get away with some of the things they say. Now she had to apologize. She had to walk back the ethnic slur that she made again. Not the first time. So we've been sending a lot of money over to Ukraine, a lot of weapons. Whether you agree with it or not, something's going to happen. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Something is going to happen. But there's news reports out there now. It's all over the internet. Maybe it's fake. Maybe it's fake news. That the weapons we've been sending to Ukraine and other NATO countries have been sending over there are being found in Iran. We're sending billions of dollars of weapons and they're being found in Iran? Huh. Zelensky, for a country that's at war, he's certainly parading around everywhere. That doesn't sit right with me. I'm a big person on optics a little bit. For an example, on this show, you'll see I flip-flop. I go to both sides. I read the headlines, and I give you an instant opinion. And I want you to give me the opposite. And guess what? I might end up siding with you, right? People argue. You have to be right. That's not what this show's about. We're just airing some grievances. We're just airing some stuff going on. But these weapons are being found in Iran. The Iranians are having weapons from NATO meant for Ukraine. With that, I also thought I read, I did. I just pulled it up. Associated Press, China, Russia, and Iran are holding joint naval drills. When is someone going to wake up? There's only so much that I think people can handle and that the economy can sustain and that the world and the environment can sustain. We have migrants pouring into this country because the rest of the world is in shambles. There's other countries all over not doing well. And I think we have the right idea. We want to help them, but we want them to do it our way. We're giving you all this money. You got to do it our way. The second that we mostly pulled out of Afghanistan, and I say mostly because don't let them fool you. We still have plenty of troops there. And supposedly the government's going to be supporting them until the very last second. But you have migrants coming into the country. You now have New York City Mayor Adams floating the idea of sending them to college for free. That's wonderful. But who's paying the bill? Where is all the money coming from? I don't understand this. We talk about the world, we're talking about the environment, we're talking about things going on. You have Stacey Abrams, failed Georgia gubernatorial candidate. She announced that she's going to be joining an environmental advocacy dark money group that is pushing to regulate and ban natural gas-powered stoves. Now, I'll be the first to admit I'm not a big cook. There's a couple of things I could do. I like to grill. Gas. I thought natural gas was the clean alternative. So this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, folks. People are in it for themselves. The climate groups are pushing natural gas as being bad because there's some stake in it for them. But it used to be good. I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know about you. I'm confused. I'm very confused. Talk about where money is going and what's happening and things flip-flopping and changing. Listen, you do what you want with your body. I'm not paying for it. Joe Biden's finally he's doing something for the vets, by the way. Finally. Joe Biden's proposed 2024 budget is going to include increased funding for sex changes for veterans. So he finally does something for veterans, and it's this? This is the best thing we could come up with, is to give veterans money to do this? How about we just give them more money? How about we get them more support, Joe? Again, I'm confused. Maybe that should be the name of this podcast. I'm confused. It makes no sense. Listen, I'm not getting involved if you should or shouldn't do it. And that whole thing, right? I'm just saying, why does the American taxpayer have to fund that? Why does the American taxpayer have to fund something that someone else is doing to themselves that has no effect on me? Taxes, I think, are illegal. They were supposed to be temporary. But with that being said, taxes should help us all. That doesn't help the greater good. But he'll use this. This administration now is going to use this. Oh, we gave the vets more money. Again, I'm confused. Next week, we're going to have a very, very, very special guest, ladies and gentlemen. Very high-ranking, I'm going to say politician, even though they're going to consider themselves not a politician. But we have a very special guest coming on next week. Stay tuned to our Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. We're going to be talking about this special guest. We're going to be dropping hints all week long until next week. We're going to reveal who this special guest is. All I'm going to say is, it's going to be huge. It's the AOG Podcast, the Year of Grievances podcast. I'm AJ.